Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
It's lights out and away we go.
Alberto's got away beautifully at the start of the great race.
Who's that got off?
Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc.
Welcome to Negative Camber, the motorsport show, brought to you by Kart's Race Centre.
Far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside.
The ultimate pit stop,
The safety car is coming in
fueling your passion for motorsport.
with an emotional moment that means everything.
All of the latest results, analysis, and interviews.
Roar the drivers on to the final lap of this race.
I'm Jamie Lemura, motorsport enthusiast, historian, and media presenter.
And I'm Lee Harrison, motorsport professional, Sprint Master Karts race driver, and Formula One alumni.
Welcome to Negative Camber, the motorsport show, proudly brought to you by Kart's Race Centre. A little bit different tonight for our show. We are studio-less, but we're taking it back old school with a bit of a modern twist with the miracle that is Zoom. And with me is none other than the co-driver in this caper of ours, looking quite second-hand, it must be said, because it was Cody's wedding last night, is Mr. Lee Harrison. Hello, sir.
It's going down.
Me, I'm okay. I'm recovering from a day at the track. What's going down with you is probably copious amounts of white, depending on whatever your taste buds were requiring that night. How you going anyway?
No, look, like you said, I'm feeling very secondhand, but a very eventful night. Lots of fun was had. Lots of talking, lots of shouting. Good friend Josh Tynan is back from Sweden, so it was good to catch up with him and spend a lot of time talking. But yeah, no, just all out fun afternoon and fun evening, which carried on early into the morning this morning, and has left us with some sorry heads and some sore bodies.
How did Cody scrub up as a groom? Did he pull out all stops, or was it quite cash?
Nah, he was dressed to the nines. He was cocktail old James Bond spec, like fitted suit, all the rest of it, shiny shoes. He looked $1 million.
That's why you like it. That's why that's good. I like it. Well done, Cody. I wouldn't expect anything less. But yes, we were. So you're sore in the head. I'm sore in the body. Having done testing today at Southern Go-Kart Club and got my first taste of the new Maxxis tyre, and fair to say it is extremely different, which is an understatement. So yeah, I think anyone that can get any more than 10 laps at full tilt out of those tyres in a 20-lap stint, there or thereabouts, is going to should get a gold medal, because those tyres fall off a cliff pretty quick, especially if you're on the heavier side of things. But the other thing I noticed as well compared to the old Vega tyre was just how stiff the sidewalls are, and on a high grip track as well. You get things like bounce and all sorts of stuff. So it's definitely different, and it takes more than a session or two to get the hang of it. So I think there's going to be a few people that are going to be really learning the limits as the race goes on next week. And the race that we're talking about is the 4-stroke Enduro that you are the defending champion, and there was talk about that today amongst some of the ranks. You are a marked man, my friend. I'm not marking you because I'm not even racing you. But it's probably the biggest single event race of the year in the South Australian calendar now, and given the fact that we've got 33 4-stroke go-karts in the grid so far, they're probably getting close to capacity of 36. Should be a great event.
Yeah, super looking forward to it. I heard there was plenty of you guys out there today, 14 or 15 of you out there practicing your driver changes and getting some laps in, and I'm just being the dark horse and letting you guys all go out there and run yourselves into the ground and hopefully come home and take the chocolates again next weekend.
Well, put it this way, mate. If you put a performance like you did at Cody's wedding, I think they're going to be knocking you to the ground because you won't even be getting up.
No, we were best on ground last night for sure. Like, just absolutely priming ourselves up for getting ourselves in full potential for next weekend.
Yes, yeah, no, it's going to be. I'm just looking at the entry list now. So they've split what's different this year is there's two classes really. There's a Pro-Am and a Pro class, which I think there's a race within a race almost.
And there's going to be a rookie class as well.
No, okay, yep. And so I guess what I like about this is that everyone's got something to sort of aim at. It's not just down to the overall. I mean, the quality of driver that it's in this field this year is as far better than any of the first two editions that we've sort of participated in. But you've got your work cut out in terms of, in the pro class as well. It's going to be tough if you can go back to back. It's going to be a fair effort, mate.
Yeah, it's good to see lots of two-strokers get around it and either join a four-stroke friend and share the cart, or have found a cart from one of their four-strokers that have teamed up with another four-stroker. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Like you said, there's probably eight teams that are in with a shot of giving it a good crack. So yeah, we've just got to make sure that we do our best job. We've been out there and we've done our fair bit of testing. And to your point about getting 10 laps out of the tyres, we did a half race stint a few weeks ago, and our best lap for the race stint that we did was on lap 47. So that was on the Maxus. So we've got our setup ready to go, and we weren't experiencing any drop off at all. So really looking forward to getting out there and trying to defend the title. And it's going to be tricky with that many karts on track in qualifying, 10 minutes for each driver in qualifying. And to set your best lap time, it's going to be a busy track. There's a huge range of skill and weight differential in some of these teams. So yeah, it's going to be a battle trying to pick a lap where you're going to be clear air and you're going to be able to get the stuff done. And with these four strokes as well, sometimes if you can pick up a bit of a draft, that's always going to help you. So are you going to find someone that's going to help you out and give you a tow and then swap the next lap when you get some clear space, or are you going to come up on traffic? It's going to be interesting to see how the qualifying plays out, and what the grid ends up looking like at the end of the 10 minutes of qualifying for each driver.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing to note too, I guess, getting on the tyre situation, is the fact that we do have the ability for this year only to run the two four-stroke tyre compounds. So you've got the Vega, which is what the class has used for a majority of its 4 or 5 years of existence, and the Maxus for Super Sport, which has only been introduced this year. Vastly different in terms of how you get the pace out of it. The Maxus tyre is certainly one with that you can favour a later braking style, but it's also quite grippy in corners, whereas the Vega is more of a lift and coast and power it through. But the Vega is probably, over the course of a lap around Southerns, anywhere for probably, in terms of a delta, about a half a second in some cases, give or take, depending on the driver as well. But what we've also found too is that over the course of a stint, in particular, the Vega gets better and faster, whereas the Maxus, depending on who's driving, of course, if you go too hard too soon, you can hit a bit of a cliff, and once they go off that cliff, it's very hard to get back. So there might be some people. In fact, I know there were some people today that were doing race runs on the Vegas, and we're probably going to settle on those. So we haven't exactly figured out our tyre. Myself being Ruben and myself, we've got a fair indication of which one we're going to go with, but. Yeah, there's definitely some others in there that are in the pros and the Pro-Am class that are going to favour the Vega compound as well. So, be interesting.
Yeah. It's, I know that it's in the rules and in the rule book that you can run both tyres, but would have been good for them to put a hard and fast line on it for the Enduro that, that's the tyre that we've got to be on, and sort of start phasing out that Vega a little bit more quickly than what's happening at the moment, because at the end of the day, it's going to be gone very soon anyway. So but yeah, I guess it throws another bit of strategy into it as well. Who's going to go on what tyre, and how's it going to fare? There's sort of a battle in the race as well, not just for Pro-Am, but maybe even the first Maxus finisher and the first Vega finisher.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. The other thing to note too is also setup. Do you favour a kart that's going to be more straight line orientated, or are you going to focus on sort of anywhere from turn 3 all the way to turn 7 and 8, which is sort of Tyson's and also that pit entry corner, where a lot of that lap is not necessarily full throttle. It's only really sort of the final sweeper and that front straight where you're really sort of exploiting the full potential of the engine. So, do you find it, especially if you're a heavily orientated driver, do you sort of favour a slightly higher gear to help you with drive out the corner, but sacrificing for the lighter driver going down a straight line. So it's going to be very interesting to see who comes up with what. But whoever wins in both classes, I think will and truly have earned it this time, especially with that field.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like I said, it's deep field, lots to consider. We're very lucky in the position that we're in. We've got, myself and Ryan are pretty equal in weight, so we don't really have to give up that give and take. But yeah, some of the other guys where a heavy's partnered up with a light driver, they've got some decisions to make for sure.
You started to think about who's doing the start of the race, or whether it's going to be yourself like last year, or whether Ryan might take the reins to start the stint?
No, we haven't really discussed that yet. We'll sort of maybe have a look at that after qualifying and make a decision on the day. But you can't really tell what's going to happen. It'll really all come down to where we qualify. If we qualify up the front, then likely that Ryan will start. If we qualify a little bit, mid-pack deeper, we might see what the rest of the pairings look like and put work it out from there where we think we should be.
I'm doing a rain dance. That's all I can say. The weather.
I don't think I would love for it to rain too. It'd be a very, very interesting race. But looking ahead at the weather forecast at the moment, she's supposed to be 23 and is going to be a beautiful day for racing.
Well, we thought that too this morning. Looked at the weather forecast and they were saying cloud, no rain. We get the southerns and she's sheeting down. Yeah. So if it rained for probably. It rained relatively solid for probably a good 15 minutes, enough to sort of wet the track. But within sort of 3/4 of an hour, it was completely dry and then fine for the rest of the day. The sun came out and it got hot. So the weather forecast, as it was there, will be very similar to what Sunday is going to be. And she's very grippy. That's all I can say. So I think it'll be a very, very fast track. And by the end of the day, grip galore. So it should be good fun. I'm looking forward to it. And then as soon as the race finishes, I'm off to Sydney, be there for a week. And you may or may not be doing club driver, depending on what arrangements you've got and where you can defend the double as well. We've got the KA3 and the 4-stroke class. Yeah,
I probably won't race KA3 if we go to Ultimate Club Race. I'll just focus on the 4-stroke. If we go to Club Racer, it'll be about getting in some laps for Cody ahead of the Nationals around there next year as well. So that'll be more of the focus than me trying to go back to back and win both classes. But yeah, if we go to Paco, really looking forward to that as well. I think it's going to be big fields there as well, with the announcement that the Nationals are there next year. That's going to get a lot of entries for that meeting. I dare say there'll be sort of 15 to 20 in 4SS medium over there. So it'll be a very hard field. Lots of guys with local track knowledge there that'll come in handy. But yeah, hopefully we can go over there and do well again and maybe bring home another silver plate.
All right. Early tips for the Enduro. We'll do Pro first. You aside, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a top 3 in mind, given names. I mean, it's very easy to say names at the moment, but what are you thinking?
So I can't include myself in the top 3? It's the top 3 outside of me?
Well, look, we know that you're modest. So I thought, well, we'll try something different and put you out of the equation because you're expected to win. So we'll take the ones that are going to finish 2nd, 3rd, and 4th then.
Yeah. So I would put Nick and Cody, Daniel Price, Blake Purdy, and probably Riley for Tanya and Jacob Chandler.
Yeah, they were doing some laps today. So they were pumping out some pretty good times. So yeah, look, I think everyone's talking Daniel Price and Blake Purdy today. That was the word in the pits.
Yeah, Blake's the outlier there. Like, not really sure. He's come back and done a few tag races and hasn't been super. And he hasn't done any testing yet in the 4-stroke. So it's going to be how he decides to rock up for that race meeting. Is he's the outlier. I definitely wouldn't put them as my out and out favorites.
Yeah. I think definitely Nick and Cody, depending, I guess, on how Nick is physically. I mean, I'm assuming he's been doing some testing since Weiler and stuff, so I think he'd scrub up. So obviously you're in the mix. I would have said, Daniel and Blake. And I'm going to go a bit of an outsider. I reckon I wouldn't discount Anthony Ormsby and Jack Ryan. there'll be a smoky in there for a top 3 too. So Anthony only missed out on, I think, did you get the podium or something like that last year, and they got dubbed for weight, or I think.
No, they got done for the middle pit stop was too short, so they crossed the line before the 4 minutes.
Yep. Okay. Pro-Am, heaps here. I'm just trying to disseminate through them now. Any tips for who you think Pro-Am?
Probably Daryl State and Paul Pittam. They'll be good. Tim and Emma, Tim Harrell and Emma Lester. They'll go well. Your Lee and Steve Chesson could be up there as well.
Yep.
There's probably 7 or 8 teams that, in that field as well. Sam Merton and Christina, they could go well.
Yep.
There's a lot of good drivers in that field as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the harder one out of the 2 pro classes, like Pro-Am and Pro, is which one to pick. So
I think in Pro you could basically put every team that's racing in Pro could win that race. It's a stacked lineup in Pro, but it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. But we will do a review of that in detail. Slag each other off or give each other high five, depending on which way you go. But if you don't get top step, mate, I will be extremely disappointed for you.
So will I.
So could you imagine though? What would you do if it was a Sprint Master 1-2? Would it be like a commemorative T-shirt or something, or would you?
Yeah, we've already talked about this. So,
well, come on, secrets out now. What have you got?
We've sort of got some hand signals ready to go. So if we're 1-2 starting the last lap, we're going to slow down and do a formation finish.
Oh, when Alan Moffat, Colin Bond, like 77 Bathurst style, just 1-2.
Correct. Yeah. So Kart 26 first, of course, and then Kart 25.
Oh, could you imagine if they dog you and they just go across?
That was what Nick was saying. He's like, I'm going to pull up on your engine side and switch the engine off on you, and they'll turn the choke on you or something like that. So, we've been having some fun with it. Like, we've been out there testing a fair bit and having lots of fun and pushing each other around. So, I guess going back into that qualifying scenario, we'll probably find each other on track because we'll be roughly the same speed as each other. So, fingers crossed it works out well, and the 2 Sprint Master karts can be at the front.
Are you using Goldfinger or are you using the old one?
No, I'm in Goldfinger, and then Cody and Nick are using the red one. So they're probably at a slight disadvantage. The gold one is a little bit better. But we'll see how we go.
Yeah, fair enough. High karts. Obviously, there's the final round South Australian High Kart Championship at X Karts at Gawler. We talked about that in the previous show, hosted by Scuderia Ferrari Club Adelaide. 3 spots left on the grid, so we're getting close to a full house on the 5th of November. 300-lap endurance race, $250 per driver. Jump onto the Scuderia Ferrari Club Adelaide website, www.sfcadelaide.com/online store. If you want to book your spot. So the race is going to be held on the 5th of November. It's the culmination of the SA High Kart Championship as well. And probably crowning 2 champions on the day. Both are pretty much over the line. So it'll be a good day to celebrate what's been a successful first year, and barbecue and food on offer. If you're not going to the Ultimate Club Driver, mate, there's still that Kimi Räikkönen hat that's being raffled off. That was looking at me the other day as I was taking photos to share amongst all the people there. So I did think of you, and I thought, bugger it, I'm putting it back in the box. He can earn it the hard way.
Word on the street is after I've finished winning this Enduro next weekend, that if I don't go to Ultimate Club Racer, I'll be winning that round of that Enduro with my teammates. So,
righto. We better get an entry in there.
No, I think the entry is in, and that the teammate will sack whoever they have currently lined up and replace them with me if I become available.
Wow, here we go. I like it. This is a man of mystery you are, Harrison, which is interesting.
Like to keep the world guessing.
Yes, absolutely. But that should be a good day.
Follow us on socials, join us on our website, negativecamber.co, and be sure to subscribe to the Negative Camber Club for access to exclusive content, episode previews, and special deals from our amazing partners.
Get ready
to ignite your racing passion at Pro Karts Race Centre, your ultimate destination for motorsport excellence. Our track isn't just a playground, it's a classroom where 25 years of racing knowledge come to life. Imagine having a team of seasoned experts guiding you from the rookie to the pro. Our driver coaching services aren't just about finding those elusive extra tenths on the track, they're about moulding winners. With hands-on guidance, racing line tips and data analysis, you'll not only experience the thrill of speed, but the satisfaction of victory. Join us and witness the transformation of your racing game as our expertise propels you to the forefront of the competition. Visit prokartsracecentre.com.au or pop in for a chat at 30 Research Road, Paraka. Pro Karts Race Centre, fueling your passion, igniting your potential.
Right. There's been some sport that's been happening, or some motorsport, I should say. I'm assuming you've kept abreast of everything that's been going on in the world of Formula One. We'll jump straight into the Qatar Grand Prix. No video clips or anything of that nature. Nothing fancy in this particular segment. We're going old school with this one. So, mate, have you got the results for Qatar, which was held on the 6th and the 8th to the 8th of October? We did the sprint, so we may as well just talk about the race.
No, I've definitely got the results here.
Fire away, my friend.
All right, so winner, doesn't take any surprises here, but Max Verstappen. Oscar Piastri with a beautiful second place, beating home Lando Norris. George Russell in fourth. Charles Leclerc fifth. Fernando Alonso sixth. Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, and Sergio Perez rounded out the top 10. Lance Stroll in 11th. Pierre Gasly in 12th. Alex Albon, Kevin Magnussen, and Yuki Tsunoda rounding out the 15, with Nico Hulkenberg, Liam Lawson, Logan Sargent being our top 18, with Lewis Hamilton doing Lewis Hamilton things, and Carlos Sainz unfortunately not making the start with a fuel leak problem.
Yeah, we decided that Carlos was too precious to race in that stinking, stifling heat, so they decided that there was a fuel issue and thought, call it a day. We'll let Charles suffer instead.
Yeah,
it was bad enough that they couldn't even get the car out. So I'm not sure exactly what the issue was, but it was definitely fuel system related. So bad enough that it was irreparable, and they couldn't get it out in time. So,
yeah, I think they were doing a change on the engine, and when they put it all back together, one of the couplings wasn't quite right, and they had a fuel leak. So a bit of a shame that the second Ferrari couldn't quite get on the grid.
I liked the fact that they limited the drivers to those small runs in terms of tyres, and it became almost 3 sprint races in throughout the whole segment of the race. And but what it also did do was it pushed the drivers to the limit physically. I mean, they were the heat was something that they probably haven't experienced before, and not good.
Well, I don't think it was necessarily the heat, or the humidity. I think it was just the fact that they actually had to drive so hard for so many laps. Like, they don't do that anymore. They don't do qualifying laps every single lap of a Grand Prix, because they're always out there managing tyres and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, like the first race that they actually had to push every single lap, they all got out, and they were, the heat and stuff made it worse, but I don't think it was solely down to the heat. They've raced there before in the same hot and humid conditions. They've raced in Singapore in hot and humid conditions. They've raced in Australia in hot conditions. So yeah, I think the fact was that they just had to push so hard for the whole race that definitely attributed to their exhaustion levels.
I think it also made it really complicated to follow initially, and I think credit to obviously the Sky team to kind of disseminate what was the fact that the drivers had used some of these tyres in earlier practice sessions. So some of them had different laps on different compound. I remember Karun Chandok on socials put up a list that he'd written down of every driver, every tyre compound that they've got, and how many laps that they've done on each compound. And to say it was messy was an understatement. You had to pause the screen and try and disseminate what was actually going on. It was pretty interesting stuff. So I think more of that to spice it up a little bit more, instead of the current mundane type of setup that they've got. Just to, rather than sprint races, do something like that where you've got, high tyre deg, or, tyres that last 10, 15 laps and they've got to do 2 or 3 stops, or, Hey,
Yep.
maybe look at doing refueling again in some way, shape, or form.
That wouldn't be very cost efficient though, would it? And that's,
All about what Formula One's about, being cost efficient and zero carbon and all the rest of it. So, I can't see it happening anytime soon unless we have sort of, unforeseen circumstances again, like we did with the tyres getting ruffled up on the curbs. So, yeah, but it made it exciting, that's for sure. Like you sort of, didn't know what was going to happen till right towards the very end. And if a safety car came out at the wrong time, which unfortunately we didn't quite have after lap, sort of the first lap carnage, we didn't really have another safety car. So that would have made things even more interesting because they wouldn't have been able to pit. Some people would have been able to pit, others wouldn't. It would have really thrown some more spanners in the works. But yeah, bring it on, a bit more racing like that, and a little bit more excitement into the fold.
I find it funny how we talk about the cost cutting and carbon neutral and stuff like that, and how many times has the aeroplanes and aircraft carriers crisscrossed the world, carrying and ferrying F1 cars all over the place. I mean, the way that they've structured the season, I guess, is probably a bit debatable as well. Where they've crisscrossed America 2 or 3 times, over the course of the whole year.
Yeah.
They may as well do all the American races in one hit and then do all the European races in one hit, all the Asian races in one hit. That makes it more logical, I think, anyway. But there's obviously commercial agreements in place, environmental factors that you've got to take into consideration, like weather and climate and wet seasons and all that sort of stuff too. So, yeah, but no, I agree with you on that in terms of more, because that was good stuff. What Mercedes don't want more of is George Russell v. Lewis. And saw your remarks on our little chat that we've got during the week, where Lewis did what Lewis does, and credit to him, he owned up to it. But pretty clumsy, to be honest. There's been a couple of those sort of clumsy, and you'll laugh at this in terms of what I'm about to say, but there's a couple of clumsy sort of driver errors that have crept into Lewis this year on a couple of occasions. Monza's one, and now this. Unlike him, although then that's where I think you'll scoff at it. But it's is it pressure? Is it the fact that George has upped his game over the last couple of weeks, or arguably since Singapore pace wise, or is it the fact that he's just probably overdriving and trying too hard when he sees an opportunity to maybe give Red Bull a bit of a battle for 2 or 3 laps before Max clears out?
Yeah, I think a bit of the overdriving is what's happening. But yeah, he's sort of obviously gone back into the crashing and like he did last year with Verstappen, and just driving like there's no one else on track, and like he's entitled to the whole of the circuit. So it's hopefully him crashing into the teammate at Qatar. They've sat down and had a bit of a talk about it, and we won't see that anymore from him, or that we'll see less of it. But it'd be interesting. He's at the front here at Austin tomorrow morning, so our time tomorrow morning, probably the race would have been done by the time this one goes to air. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he comes up to in that race, and if he can stay out of trouble.
Yeah, obviously talking about Max, title number 3 wrapped up as expected in the sprint race. Probably the most consummate title I think I've seen in quite a long time. And when you think it's towards the back end of the season, then you realise exactly how many races are left in the calendar. It actually seems almost like he's won the title at the halfway mark, to be fair. Probably the most complete title victory I've seen for, well, I would go as far, and I know I've said this before, but I'd go as far as saying even as far as Mika Häkkinen in 1998, first year of the groove tyres when McLaren had the third brake. Yeah. Because at least with Mercedes, they had a battle between the teammates, whereas Mika was far above David Coulthard, and McLaren had such a car superiority advantage over the rest of the field, ironically designed by Adrian Newey. This is, probably the most complete thing I've seen from a title in terms of poles, wins. Even
that's not over yet as well. Like there's still 6 races to go or whatever. So we're only going to see more and more and more. It did obviously start out with a little bit of a battle between him and Sergio, but yeah, Sergio's really, really, really fallen by the wayside and has a lot of work to do. They've got, guys like Lewis and chomping at the heels to overtake him in second place in the World Championship. So they've always said at Red Bull that while Sergio's getting second in the championship, his seat's safe, but he's quickly approaching losing that. So if that does come to fruition, then it'll be interesting to see what the Red Bull chiefs have to say.
Well, there was rumor going around during the week. I read. I don't know if you saw it, mate. I think it was one of his major sponsors, I think Telcel, or sort of made this statement that Perez was going to announce his retirement at the end of the year, which he's obviously promptly come out this weekend and said no. But his performances have dropped off that much that even now his major sponsors and backers are having to start to speak up in his defense. So, yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, you in terms of how far he's dropped off, if we recall back in 2021 at the Turkish Grand Prix, for example, and Perez and Lewis have gone side by side for about 5 corners and Perez gets ahead of Lewis Hamilton again, you haven't seen that this year. He hasn't even looked anywhere near like that real plucky defensive number 2 or anything of that nature. So it's actually been quite sad when you think about it in terms of that fall from grace.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it was all set up for him for this year to go chase after Max, and Max had a couple of sloppy races at the start of the year. So yeah, it's hard to see Sergio struggling so much, but maybe it's going to open the door for Ricciardo again. We don't know what the situation is there, but yeah, only time will tell what the rest of this year holds.
Yeah, absolutely. Oscar Piastri got voted driver of the day, won the sprint race, as we know, and then obviously another podium as well. The kid's a star, simple as that. Give him the equipment, and he's more than capable.
100%, and you don't win Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2 back to back to back without being a good talent, and it's good to see him in there pushing Lando, and I think Oscar's still got a bit to do and a bit to find in terms of race pace. Lando seems to have him covered there. I just don't know maybe Oscar's pushing a little bit too hard in the opening couple of laps, or something's not quite right in the setup for the car as an overall. It seems very, very quick over 1 lap pace, but hasn't quite put together 55 of his best laps yet. So still some room for improvement, but yeah, to be bringing home trophies and winning a sprint race in your rookie year, that's a commendable achievement. And yeah, signed on again now until 2026, I think, with McLaren. So they're looking to lock him up, and we've got a couple of Aussies on the grid for the foreseeable future.
Isn't it funny in terms of, and typical Australian sporting public, where tall poppy syndrome is at its absolute best, when at the beginning of the year or towards the end of last year, when it was announced that he'd signed for McLaren and usurped Daniel Ricciardo, his name was mud, and he hadn't driven for 12 months with Alpine, and we all know how that came out with the tweets and the statements, etc. To his credit, and Oscar seems like a pretty chill dude. I don't know what he's like internally or on a personal front, but on the outside looking in, it's a massive credit to turn the tide now, and everyone's singing his praises.
And that's what good results will do for you. Don't come out and rubbish it back in the media, or do it on a public level. Just go out there and make everyone stop talking with your results. And he's done it the right way, and I think that's the whole of the Australian public has given him the respect because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Danny Rick now back at AlphaTauri for the US GP, and obviously cementing his spot for next year as well. Critical races now for Danny Rick to start to build some momentum going into 2024. But obviously the next few races is really just sort of getting his race pace and fitness back, considering he's missed 3 or 4 GPs with that broken wrist. Yeah,
he's missed 5 races, and then yeah, it's straight back into the fire. So I think he's done a good job jumping back in Austin. He's did okay in the sprint race and was on for a decent qualifying until some track limits got in the way. But yeah, you got to find the edges of those things when you're making your return after so long out of the car. he's going to do a good job. He's going to push Sonoda and make Sonoda work for it, like we saw with Liam Lawson as well. So he's just going to keep the fire turned up on Sergio and make sure that Sergio's got to perform, or Red Bull will have some decisions to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's definitely more to come over the next 6 to 12 months for sure on that space, especially if Perez, as you've said, gets off to another stinker or has another couple of races. In fact, depending on what you believe and who's fighting who in terms of the power struggle that's with Red Bull at the moment between Christian Horner and Helmut Marko and what's going on there. Helmut's given Perez 2 races and everyone else has kind of tried to hose that down. So, we'll see. We'll see. I think Liam Lawson in the wings as well. They've got depth at Red Bull. They've got options. So, if Sergio is thinking he's going to be comfortable and the pressure's off a little bit because the 2 AlphaTauri seats have locked in, I think he's got a little bit more to think about than that, to be honest. So,
we've seen how ruthless Red Bull have been with drivers in the past and getting rid of them or swapping them over halfway through seasons or, 5 races into a season even. So, Perez won't be feeling very comfortable, that's for sure.
A huge thank you goes out to our podium partner, Procast Race Centre, and our incredible sponsors. Your partnership allows us to continue bringing you this show and dive deeper into the world of motorsports. If your business adds value to the motorsport community, get in touch with us to become a Negative Camber partner.
Prepare for a race day like no other at Prokart's Race Centre, where racing excellence isn't just on the surface, it's in every detail. Your kart is more than a machine, it's a masterpiece of precision and performance. Our race mechanic services ensure your kart is finely tuned, race ready and expertly maintained. Leave the technical details to us while you focus on conquering the track. But we're not just mechanics, we're partners in your victory. Our skilled team provides on-site pit support during race meetings, ensuring that every element is in place for your success. At Prokart's Race Centre, we're not just about the thrill of the race, we're about the joy of winning. Join us and experience racing excellence from the inside out. Visit prokartsracecentre.com.au or pop in for a chat at 30 Research Road, Karaka. Prokart's Race Centre, fueling your passion, igniting your potential.
You ever had a tantrum like Lance? If any results haven't gone your way, have you been the sort of person that would throw the rattle out the pram like that in the past?
I don't think so. I can't. None come to mind. I'm sure my old man, when he listens to this, he'll come up with a few examples. But no, I can't. I know, like I've definitely cracked a couple of temper tantrums when I've been taken out of a race when I thought I was on for a good result. But no, none just because I didn't perform. I think I knew why I wasn't performing. If I wasn't performing, it wasn't a reflection on anything else.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen you. It's much like the superstitious piece. Like, obviously, I'll keep an eye out for gloves on hands and which side of the cart you walk in and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I've seen you when obviously you got taken out in the Festival State Cup last year at Southerns in Heat 3, I think it was Heat 2, Heat 3 or whatever, where you got hit in the rear and you'd spun from first and finished second and that sort of thing. You kind of kept to yourself and you're sort of a bit passive and then just went out and did it the next day. It wasn't where you could have had a prima donna and gone throwing hands up in the air and gone Italian, let's say. But yeah, I haven't seen you race long enough and often enough to sort of really say that would be the case from your side anyway. So I've seen Anthony crack the hissy when he's been taken out at Brossa. We all saw that. That was pretty cool. But yeah, no one touches me. I'm at the back, so I don't have anyone to complain about. Zhao Gang Yu, back row to points. It's actually a pretty good run. Good for Alpha to get some points up on the board as well.
Yeah, and they brought a new upgrade to Qatar as well. So even Bottas had some speed finishing. I think they both finished in the points. So good double points finish for Sauber, Alfa Romeo. The floor's obviously working, adopting a bit more of a Red Bull style setup, which a lot of the teams are starting to go for. So hopefully Red Bull have got some tricks up their sleeve and a few more design plans in place. But good result for them. Helps them in the Constructors' Championship jumper. I think they're fighting with Williams now for 7th spot.
Yep.
They're sort of looking to try and jump them and steal some of that money.
Yeah, well, look, it took them long. It's clearly taken the teams too long to copy the photos from Monaco when they saw the underneath of the Red Bull there. I can't believe it's been 6 months and they've only just started to create new floors now. So,
yeah, but you've got to put those things into design, into production, into testing and work out. Because just because it's the floor is the same, it doesn't mean that everything above the floor is going to work in unison with the rest of the floor. So, it's not just about, throwing a floor on a car and it's going to be instantly fast. You've got to get the aero directed to those areas on the floor to make it work.
Yeah, well, that obviously shows what the cost cap does do for some teams where they've got to pick and choose their moments because had there not been a cost cap like there has been in the past, there would have been floors designed and tested within matters of weeks. Not even, so... Yeah,
it's been good as well that the lower end teams have been given a bit of an increase. They've been given an extra $20 million to put on the top of their budget cap, just to try and help speed up their return to the top of the table. It'll be interesting to see if that does have any good effect, and teams like your Alphas and your Williams and your Haas and your AlphaTauris, even to a point, can start to close the gap, I guess, to the Mercedes and McLarens and Red Bulls.
In your opinion, what's your take on the cost cap model? Do you think it's flawed? Do you think that they should go to 2 or 3 chassis across the class, like say IndyCar, for example?
No, I think it's a great model. Keeps everyone honest. I just think that, I think we spoke about it a few weeks ago, that some of the little teams that struggled to bring sponsors and stuff in for a little while there, like your Williamses, like your Haases, they've struggled because they've not been able to upgrade at a rate that they would have otherwise with the right investment. So I think obviously they've seen that now, and that's what they're trying to do here with this little bit of a budget increase for those sorts of teams, to give them a little bit more playing money to go and try and catch up. And I think that's good. Like I said, it keeps everyone honest. It keeps some of the costs down, and we see people having to think about what they're spending their money on.
Well, I mean, look at McLaren as a case in point. So Alonso's last year, when they'd gone to Renault and they ditched Honda, there was barely a sponsor on that car. They were in dire straits when Zach Brown took over. So in a cost cap, well, sort of beginning of the cost cap era, end of, the fact that they've been able to do what they've done with, the talent that they've got at their disposal, I think actually should be the inspiration, I guess, if you want to call it that, or the framework that a lot of these teams should look to follow, because, obviously McLaren's a brand, they've been able to get sponsors, and Zach Brown's a pretty crafty guy on the marketing front. That's his bread and butter, really. Yeah. But the other teams themselves as well, it's, use that as a framework and as a guide to, turn the ship around in a relatively quick amount of time.
100%. They are the, like you said, the one that every other team should look up to and copy how they've, rebuilt themselves, because they were in a pretty dire circumstance if you look back into 2016, 2017. And so that, it's a long process to rebuild. Williams is still going through it now as well. They're sort of getting there and consistently fighting for points with Alex Albon. It's going to take time. When I guess the one thing that they need is consistency. Like we see Williams pop up into the points every now and then. We see a Haas every now and then pop into the points, but they're not there fighting for that every single weekend. There's, a few tracks in the year that suit those cars. And then they disappear again down to the back. So they just sort of need to build on the consistency and having a bit more of an all-round package that suits more tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, McLaren built a wind tunnel recently, haven't they? They've just commissioned a new one.
Yeah.
And there you go. So they've been able to turn their form around with borrowing someone else's wind tunnel as well. So let's just hope that, next year's car is even better than this year's back on the back end, and that Red Bull do taper off a little bit, but we'll see. I can't see it happening, to be honest.
No, me either.
You've reached the checkered flag of another episode of Negative Camber the Motorsport Show, proudly brought to you by Pro Kart's Race Centre. A huge thank you to you, our incredible listeners. Your support and passion for motorsports fuels our enthusiasm to bring you the latest results, analysis, and interviews from the racing world. Keep that FOMO at bay by subscribing to Negative Camber on your favourite podcast platform. We'd also love it if you could leave us a review and share the show with your fellow racing enthusiasts. Your feedback and support mean the world to us. Remember, Negative Camber is more than just a podcast. We're a community of dedicated fans who live and breathe motorsports. Follow us on socials, join us on our website, negativecamber.co, and be sure to subscribe to the Negative Camber Club for access to exclusive content, episode previews, and special deals from our amazing partners. Until next time, stay fueled with passion, embrace the Negative Camber, and keep chasing those podium finishes.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.